sharpening your thoughts, empowering your words, energizing your tongues. Welcome all to the grand finale of All Kerala Debate Championship 2K22 organized by Malik Dinar Islamic Academy Students Association, Maslac. Introducing the judges, Mr. Nizar Hudavi, Assistant Professor, Government College, Kasargod. 5 CH Hudavi, the Best Debate Award Winner 2019. Anas Hudavi, English Faculty, Zaidan International Campus. And Mr. Yasir Hudavi, English Faculty, Kutikatur, Shamsul Huda. And once again, we are welcoming the finalists of grand finale of All Kerala Debate Championship 2K22. On the motion, this House believes that nations should not interfere in others' internal politics. First of all, let us welcome the opening government, the team from Nix DHIU Chammat, Mr. Uzair and Mr. Yusuf Kamal into the stage. Mr. Uzair and Yusuf Kamal into the stage. And the opening opposition from the team KMO Islamic Academy Kodwali, Mr. Aliuddin and Sahal into the podium. And the closing government from the team Islamul Ulum Arabic College Tanu, Mr. Basim and Sinan to the stage. And the closing opposition from the team Jamia Madinatul Nur, Punur, Hashir and Hisham to the stage. So let us begin our grand finale of All Kerala Debate Championship 2K22. Let's begin with our Prime Minister from opening government.
Honorable joint members, and the members of the both house, government and the opposition. Today we gathered here to debate on the most relevant topic and which is become the of our nations and international issue in the global ways of today. I'm the Prime Minister of Government and I'm going to emphasize and accentuate that the nation should not interfere in the other nations' internal politics. So, as a Prime Minister of Government, I want that any other countries in the whole world could not interfere in my personal duties and in my personal works. Just like my Arabic college, Malik Dinar Arabic College, my college, if there's occur an incident, any conflicts here between the teachers or students, then we clearly, accentuately, we don't like to interfere another schools and other college in our internal issues. So, such like I am the Prime Minister of a country, I don't like to interfere any other nation in my internal politics. First, the internal politics is sphere activities associated with the governance of the country or area, especially debate between the parties. The governmental interference in the economic affairs and the home, the politica of another country. So, firstly, according to the motion, what is the interfere? According to the foreign policy is shaped by that we have allowed to interfere in the geographical factors, cultural factors, historical factors, economic factors, technology factor, and the national capability, leadership. All these things the foreign policy says and mention that we have allowed to interfere, but there is no mention the word politics. So we could not interfere in the internal politics of the country. It's shaped by the foreign policy. That's right. No state of the group of states has the right to interfere directly or indirectly for the reason whatever in the internal or the external affairs of a country. Just like you can see in the whole world today, the Russian and Ukraine war is only created and diplomated and built on the interfere. If we take glances on the history, then we will put that all these things we are seeing in the internal issues, and especially we can that its all issues of the country is only created by the interventionism. Russian military deployment in where just like we are now in Afghanistan, we are seeing here the Taliban government, just world sees of the terrorism government. But the Taliban government, how this build up and how the Taliban took the government in Afghanistan because of the international interventionism. Just like you can know that the Russian diplomat, US diplomat in the history because of the interfere. And the Cold War also explained by the duty the political interfere in the nation. And just like when I mentioned you the example of the Afghanistan, there was the Prime Minister during the 1989. Afghanistan Prime Minister was the Nur Muhammad Tariq, but who is the Prime Minister today in Afghanistan? The Taliban government, no Prime Minister. As a Prime Minister of the government, my first argument is that the nation should not interfere in another national politics because it leads to the interventionism, which lead to the domestic inconvenience of the host country and the guest country. Just like here the example, the piles of example here, the banana war of 1982 to the 1934, Russian diplomat in Afghanistan, American diplomat in Afghanistan, and now the Taliban. The interventionism, the political affairs, just like USA, Russia, in Afghanistan. And the banana of war is mentioned that the America interfered in the Central American countries of the nation. So there's a lot of conflict between all these countries. And if we are going to start our history by the bipolar world, and today what we are seeing, the history starts from the bipolar world. So it's only because of the interfere today we are seeing the NATO and the USA CSO collectively Treaty Security Organization. So all these things only lead to the interventionism of the country. So I believe, and I accentuately believe that a nation, as a Prime Minister of the country, I want to hear that accentuately emphasize that another country could not interfere in my personal works, in my politics as a Prime Minister of the country. Thank you so much.
Okay, the next speaker from the opposition leader to the podium.
Honorable judges and my partners, Prime Minister and other leaders of two parties. So, as I really liked in this moment, as our topic, the motion, the House believes that nations should interfere in other internal politics. So, as our definition, we would like to exclude war from it. For continuing, we should claim that interference must be needed here. So, as he said, as our beloved Prime Minister said, in his place where there is a quarrel, no one will interfere in it. So I think that's not a relevant thing to be said here. As I will come with some arguments and I merely like to rebut it. So As one of my first arguments is peace as a moral argument, peace as internal moral argument. So, what is peace? Not over religion, not over caste, not over country, not over any continents. Surplus. Not over anything, above everything there is something which is called humanity, which is called peace. So there is a need of the actual interference. There is a need of the actual interference. If other countries like Australia or New Zealand didn't defend Russia here, there won't be an Ukraine till now. Okay, continue.
The peace, I would like to say that peace is not a political, internal politics.
So you can say that peace is not a political issue, but peace is something that should be here. Why your nation had got here? Your nation became only for peace, to the actual peace. So as our first argument, we come with peace as a moral argument. As another example, please. As another example, in our Afghan, America, if America will interfere, it's going to be a deadly chaos nation. That's our first argument, peace as a moral argument. And second is the democracy policy. Okay.
As you said that peace is your moral argument. So I can say, how is peace actually coming? By intervention of by interventioning in others, other interpolitics, others countries. So I am saying, let me complete. I say that if you are saying an other person or any other country which interfere in yours, obviously he will make any something like, for example Palestine. When Palestine was good, Israel interfered in that. And what happened? You know the rest.
So I like to continue it with my arguments. Okay, the second argument is the democracy policy. You know what is the democracy policy? Democracy policy was the policy of UN which was brought to all democracy for the whole nation. So for that, we should interfere for the democracy policy. And the next policy was, and our next argument is interference of our community or for our community or our society. You have to understand, of interfering on another country or in another continent, it doesn't mean that we are just interfering on their perspective. We are also interfering on our citizens. Their citizens are living here. Their business are in here. We going to be a developing country. So for our development, for our human rights, for our everything, we should have to interfere here. So later he had said, what is the real peace? I would like to say, you have to understand, once if America didn't interfere on Israel, once America didn't interfere on Afghan, once now in Ukraine, other countries didn't have a defense over it, there won't be a country. Above everything, as a country, as a peace, as a religion, over everything, we have something which is called humanity. That's all I have to say.
Next speaker from the opening government, Deputy Prime Minister, into the podium. Honorable judges and the respected members of both parties, we, the government, believes that nations should not interfere in others' internal politics. So, I would like to start with a rebuttal of honorable leader of opposition. That firstly, I would like to make you understand that they don't know the accurate meaning of internal politics. They were talking of only one thing, that was internal humanitarian affairs. We must know first that what is political affairs and what is internal politics. They were saying that peace as moral, their first argument, and they just exemplified the UN for peace coming, that its main objective to be established is peace in every peace warming in everywhere. So I would like to say them that peace is a humanitarian affair, not a politics. And first of all, United Nations is an organization. We are not discussing about organizations' interference in a nation, in internal politics of a nation. We are discussing about the nations interfere in another nations, and especially in internal politics. And the second one, they were talking about, they have argued that democracy policy. I would like to say them, the democracy is, what does it mean? The democracy is the government of people, by the people, for the people, and should not perish anyone. It means just for the government of the people, the public of that nation, not for others. That there is no any right to others to come in and interfere and to have somewhat known as intervention. And they exemplified America's interference in Afghanistan, Syria, Palestine. They must know that first, that their intervention has completely consequences, dire circumstances. Thank you. I said thank you. My first argument is that the focus on other countries and politics systems of other countries reduce the central focus on the fellow citizens of the country. For example, you can understand very easily that UP election is now being held in India. But in the terms of election, we always see that elections are being advertised everywhere. But this time, okay.
When a minority community of a country is harassed by the government, who will save them?
Obviously, the nation, the government, and the politician, the opposition. That is why there is democracy. And thank you. Okay, so I was telling that UP election must be advertised everywhere, but it is now we are seeing in media, in every newspaper, Ukraine versus Russia. But because we all are just interfering in their others terms of politics, also others. But we must have to focus on ourselves, and so lesser focus leads to poverty and insecurity of borders, increase foreign nuisance, and result in brain drain. Because when someone is sending our military to another country, it will leads to the poverty, because our nation is civilians are not getting much food, much wealth to live very easily. And so my second argument is, it gives punishment to innocence and leads to humanitarian disaster. What will you see? What you have seen in Syria, in Iraq, and in Palestine, and in other countries, when another country has intervened the political affairs. What has happened? Thank you. The only thing that happened that we got from that intervention, that was the dire circumstances of the civilians, of the public of that country. So we, the government, is strongly believe that nations should not interfere in other internal politics, because we have seen our India always denied every country to interfere in Kashmir issue. So let me conclude. Thank you very much.
Next speaker from the opening opposition, Deputy Opposition Leader, into the podium. Mike.
respected judges, and the representatives of proposition and opposition. Our House believes that the nation should interfere in others' internal politics. First of all, I rebut the Deputy Prime Minister's argument that is that there is no need of an interference of a country on an internal politics. So how an opposition of a monarch country can save the minority from the harassment? And I also coming to my arguments that one of my argument is responsibility to protect. As we know, the Holocaust in Germany held by the by the Adolf Hitler
Something else.
Okay.
What is the means of foreign policies of nations? Does China have?
Again, I understand.
1954.
So he's also again claiming and clinging into the point of international law of justice. So that is, I'm saying this is not a plausible argument here when injustice is seen everywhere. Do you have any question? Okay. If you have any question, you could ask, or I will do. So I said that you would have the opportunity.
I said I should say that a report entitled "The Instance of the Use of U.S. Armed Force Abroad."
Of course, there is our next point.
I should say.
Let me. I understand. If I'm saying the wrong thing, you could say. So our argument is that, like our friend said just before, that a student will you bring any student from another class to resolve the disputes? No. Why? Because they have no higher authority. But this is not the case here, because if there is a justifiable cause, and the intervention of US in many of the places where Jasmine Revolution there were no justifiable cause. And this is from our part. Thank you one and all.
Next speaker, whip of the government to the podium.
Good afternoon, everybody. Highly honorable and venerable adjudicators, auxiliaries, dignitaries, and members of both houses, Parliament of and opposition. First of all, our house argues positively on nations should not interfere in others' in their politics. Before that, I would like to rebut whatever the opposition leaders said. I'm very sorry to say that honorable opposition leader, I think he has forgotten to define the motion. What is the duty of opposition leader to define what is the motion? But I haven't heard any definition for the motion as a part of opposition leader. It's very pathetic, and I'm very sorry for that. And all of the arguments were just a sentence to stretch the time to its limits, that the peace makes interfering in the international and internal politics. And after that, honorable opposition deputy leader have stated a lot of examples of interfering that was only dictatorships and individuals, along with the individuals, in spite of the interfering in countries. And he was blabbering for the question of our honorable deputy prime minister about the country which have interfering in the international. And after that, our honorable member of opposition. It's too pathetic to say that the honorable member of opposition have repeated the POI after the time limitations, and he's just blabbering with the questions as an argument that how our deputy prime minister is questions. There are questions that they're making the questions as you know very well and what the question is, and blabbering with it's an argument of the prime minister, deputy prime minister. And also one more thing is that there was an intervention report. It's a report entitled "Instance of the Use of U.S. Armed Force Abroad 1798 to 1945." Also listing nearly 160 occasions when the United States used its armed force, overwhelming in the countries of the Third World. And here, the interference means interfering in a situation without invitation. As our honorable prime minister stated, no state or group of states has the right to intervene directly or indirectly for any reason, whatever, in the internal nor external affairs of any other states. And crystal clear evidence is Russian military deployment in Afghanistan in 1978 to 79. and that created problems, and currently Afghanistan is under Taliban. If that wasn't happen in that time, there won't be any problems in Afghanistan. You have to note it. Not only that, as our Honorable Deputy Prime Minister said, it will lead to more conflicts. The international interference into the internal matters, it will lead to more conflicts. That's why a lot of countries like UK, Switzerland, Sweden, and China in 1954 added non-interfering in their foreign policy. You have to note it as a crystal clear evidence as a lot of countries have added it as a foreign policy. What? The non-interference in a foreign policy. And after all, as our opposition, our member of parliament, no state shall by force interfere with the constitution or government of another state. That means in political affairs. The non-intervention rule is a principle of international laws that restricts the ability of outside nations to interfere with the international affairs of another nation. And the last point is the modern nation-state elements are population, territory, government, and sovereignty. And in this sovereignty, no one should interfere. Okay? From this, I want to say the only thing, the arguments of opposition have gone in vain in the light of the evidence and arguments what the parliament of our Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister said. Thank you very much.
Final speaker of this grand finale, whip of opposition to the podium.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Here, our honorable opposition leaders made a precise argument that nations should interfere in others' international politics, internal politics, if there is a justifiable cause. While our honorable Prime Minister and his party is opposing it as they should not interfere at any cost. So our honorable opposition leader put forward a very important argument that peace as a moral argument. When we are introducing our government men, they said that the reasons of formation of nation states and all. So the discussion of the nation states is based on the ideology, based on the concept of peace, as our honorable opposition leader says. So when we are concluding the arguments of our government party, it's like they are saying that other nations should keep silence if there is unmoral things are happening in the world. As our leaders suggest that when the Uyghur Muslims or any other minority party of another country is facing an oppression or suppression to express their rights in their own nation, we should keep silence and sit and look it down. So our arguments should be concluded like nation should interfere if there is a justifiable cause and can lead to the prosperity of that nation. So by this we are claiming that there should be not overuse of this right should be promoted. If there is a justifiable cause, it is right Therefore, our ancestors, our former state leaders promoted to the building of United Nations and all. So they just made it by the foresight, by their experiments, by the Nazism and fascism, like our opposition leaders said. So let me conclude my argument that nation should interfere if there is a justifiable cause. Nation should interfere if there is a justifiable cause, and that cause will lead to the prosperity of their own nations. Wa akhir dawana alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum.
So here ends the grand finale of All Kerala Debate Championship 2K22 organized by Malik Dinar Islamic Academy Students Association, Maslac. So the closing ceremony will be after the namaz, Asr namaz. The prize distribution and certificate distribution, and also the result publishing will be announced in that ceremony. So thank you.